Right now, more trouble for Delta Airlines. We're going to examine the rights passengers have should the friendly skies become a bit turbulent. Also, we're going to look into the work being done right here in Metro Atlanta to boost early childhood literacy rates. And where's the best place to find a new home? ITP or OTP? Let's get into it. This is The Take. I'm Jesse McNeil, and you're watching The Take, where we bring in the experts to get their take on today's headlines. We also get to the bottom of how and why stories are impacting you and your community. Let's start with a scary moment this morning on Delta Airlines, where a plane was filled with smoke midair. This was yesterday on a flight from Atlanta to South Carolina. Nearly 100 passengers and flight crew were on board. After emergency landing was made, everyone fortunately got off that plane safely. What is going on? This just a little more than a week over another Delta airline flight, you may have remembered, crashed on a runway in Toronto. All this is raising questions about flight safety, of course. So we had to bring in Alan Armstrong, aviation lawyer, and he is a pilot himself based right here in Atlanta. Alan, welcome to the show.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man, but I got to know about these flights. First of all, I want to get your take on all of this. What's your take on these flights?
Well, the precautionary landings with smoke or odors or fumes are appropriate for the flight crew. That's a good call by the flight crew. That's exactly what they should do. And if there's a question about the airworthiness of your aircraft, you're required by the regulation to land as soon as practicable. That doesn't mean right now, but it means as soon as you reasonably can, to investigate and ascertain the airplane's airworthy. So that's entirely appropriate. That's a good call by the flight crew. The flight crews of Delta Airlines are very, very highly trained, very capable pilots, so their actions are entirely appropriate.
So now let's talk about this in particular. Now this was like a haze, a smoke. We saw the video, and it kind of filled the plane. Atlanta to Columbia, South Carolina is a very short flight, to say the least, but they decided to turn around and come right back. Was that the safe move you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
If we don't guess with airplanes. We don't estimate. We don't guess. We have to know what we have, and we have to appreciate the actual condition of the aircraft. And the aircraft is pre-flight before it's taken by the flight crew. They sign off and say the aircraft is acceptable for flight. If the airplane begins to demonstrate it has a problem or may have a problem, you need to get on the ground and figure out what you got. You don't want to troubleshoot the airplane while you're flying. That's not a good move. And besides, many of the pilots are not mechanics anyway. That's not the time to be investigating an airplane for airworthiness.
Yeah.
The best thing to do is to get the airplane on the ground and have maintenance examine it and find out if this is just some spilled coffee on the heater or if this is a short wire, and what a short, of wire that's been shorted out. So these are things that should be investigated on the ground carefully and thoroughly, and not when you're airborne.
Tell me, what type of protection does passengers have when they experience stuff like this?
Well, protections in terms of an aircraft diverting, that's not a traumatic event. I mean, the fact that the airplane's got smoke or odor or things of that nature, that's not normally a trauma. Now, if you're referring to the accident in Montreal, that's a wholly different, in Toronto, that's a wholly different animal. That's a completely different animal. We can go into that if you want to.
Absolutely, absolutely. We know that Delta offered a certain amount of fee or whatever, but 2 of the passengers so far we know have lawyered up, really. What kind of protection do they have?
They have protections under the Warsaw and the Montreal Convention. Warsaw is 1929, Montreal is 1955. And these provide certain minimum amounts of money that you can get for an injury or death. And they are, let's see here, there are 100,000 drawing rights under Article 22, and that works out to about $131,000. Now, that cap can be broken in the event that the airline doesn't prove that they were not negligent or doesn't show that the fault lies with a third party. So you can get more than that, but without regard to fault, you get $131,000 or $100,000 special drawing rights under the Montreal Convention.
Gotcha.
And I think that Delta offering $30,000 per passenger is a very generous and very responsible act on its part.
All right, got to get your take on this. Last one, quick answer if you can. Despite all these incidents, how safe do you feel like it is to fly?
It's the safest way to travel. End of conversation. It just is.
I knew he was going to say that, but we keep having these problems. So guess what? I'm going to bring you back. I'm going to bring you back on the show. We'll talk more about it. Hopefully we won't see any more of these, but thanks for being here and giving us your insight, Alan Armstrong. Really appreciate it.
Very welcome.
All right, have a great day. All right, another headlines this Tuesday. The Vatican sources say Pope Francis slept well all night while remaining in the hospital, remaining hospitalized. The 88-year-old has pneumonia in both lungs and remains in critical conditions despite showing slight improvement. Still, thousands of people gathered in St. Peter's Square to pray for the ailing pontiff, understanding that they may be in Rome for Francis' final days. Crowds sat under umbrellas on folding chairs or stood in the vast colonnades as they reflected fondly on Pope Francis' legacy. Atlanta's mayor will lay out the city's priorities for the year in his State of the City address. We expect public transportation, specifically MARTA, will be a priority for 2025. Dickens also expected to cover other issues that impact residents. The mayor will begin speaking at 6 p.m. and we're going to stream it right here, his full speech, right here on 11Alive Plus. Make sure you stay tuned for that. All right, let's take a look at our 7-day outlook, and it shows, man, some warm days. We call them bonus days around here. 71 degrees for your afternoon high temperature today. Get the kids out there, get them on the playground. They've been in the house maybe far too long. Get them out there, get some exercise. If you missed today, tomorrow will be another one, and it's my pick for the week. 73 degrees for your high temperature on Wednesday. Could very well reach 75. Right? We'll get on up there. Cold front coming through on Thursday will change things for us. It's going to bring in some clouds, a slight chance for an isolated shower, but also drops that temperature down. We're 10 degrees lower than we will be on Wednesday. On Friday, looking at 63 for the high temperature. And then we bounce back a little bit as we head into Saturday. By the time we get to the latter half of the weekend and into next week, those temperatures will be back down in the low 60s. Keep in mind, we should be around 60 degrees for this time of year, so that's not too bad. Enjoy these bonus days. Of course, you know change is coming. We'll be on top of it to bring it to you right here. Don't go anywhere. We're back right after this. Welcome back to the show. NBC has learned that DOJ will use AI to assess the email responses from federal workers to justify their jobs. Joining us now is NBC Washington correspondent Alice Barr, who has been covering politics for years now. Welcome back, Alice. Good to see you.
Good morning. How you doing?
All right. Before we get into this AI, I want to ask you, did you guys hear anything new on the Pope's condition from NBC?
There has been a small update this morning that Pope Francis is apparently showing slight improvement and was able to resume some work while still hospitalized for this complex respiratory infection, but that he was able to at least join a phone call and that blood tests have indicated this possible positive trend in the inflammation that he had, this lung infection that's been causing so much concern.
All right, thank you for that report. Now, let me ask you this. AI, right? It seems to me, and you may know a little bit better than I do, but it seems to me that AI could give you a general response as to importance of a job, but is this even fair to use AI to assess? Give us the motives behind this.
Right. So we're talking now about using an AI system in order to process the responses to this email that was sent to all federal workers asking them to basically say what they did last week, send in 5 bullet points to explain, basically justifying their job. And what we have learned from 3 sources familiar with the matter here at NBC News is that those bullet point responses to the email would then be fed through an advanced AI system. And it's called a large language model, which is a way of looking through huge amounts of text data to then process response. And yeah, that means that a human is not looking at it, but I think because they're talking about such vast amount of information that would be coming in, Elon Musk, who's the head of the Department of Government Efficiency, clearly a leader in the tech industry, thinks that that's an efficient way, the word of the day, to process that vast amount of information that they're asking federal workers to send in.
Gotcha. Talk to us about some of these agencies that told employees not to do it. We know some employees responded, but then some were told not to do it.
Right. So this is pointing to a little bit of a, maybe breakdown within the federal government to some degree, at least, because initially the Trump administration told the heads of federal agencies that responding was voluntary, responding to this email, and several departments dealing with classified information, especially including state, justice, and defense, then told employees to wait or to not reply. They're trying to get some more clarity about whether it's necessary or not. President Trump had defended the demand, saying it's a way to figure out if people are actually working. And again, there is now this latest just overnight message from Elon Musk saying that people who did not respond the first time, they got a little bit more time, but that failure to respond a second time will result in termination. NBC News is trying to get more clarity about which way is up exactly with this. And in the meantime, a California lawsuit by a coalition of labor unions is underway, aiming to block any firings connected to the email.
So there hasn't been any word on when the next rollout would be, right?
Of these potential firings, we don't know exactly yet, because there's still such a question about exactly what is going to happen, whether they're going to follow through on saying you don't respond to this email, therefore you're terminated. There's been such a back and forth. I think we have to wait until we get our next response from the White House today to see where they're headed with it. All
right, speaking of controversy, there has been some controversy brewing over this new appointment at the FBI. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, this is Dan Bongino, who President Trump has appointed to be the second in command at the FBI. He's a former police officer, former Secret Service officer, but he's never had experience at the FBI. And the deputy director of that agency is a position normally reserved for an apolitical and career agent. We looked into it, and the last 4 to serve in this role have had at least 20 years of service with the FBI. It's somebody, the second in command really is more so in charge of carrying out the day-to-day operations, even more than the number one. And there had been some discussion when Kash Patel, who has been named to be the director of the FBI, when he came in, he spoke to some of the people representing agents at the FBI and kind of gave assurances that the person who would be in the number 2 would be a long-term career agent. And now that appears to not be the case. So it's raising some questions.
Gotcha. All right. Alice Barr in Washington, D.C. Thanks so much for joining us. Good to see you. We'll see you again tomorrow.
You too.
All right, have a great day. All right, early childhood literacy statistics in the United States show that many children are struggling to read, especially those from low-income families. Now, a recent collaboration with the Children's Museum of Atlanta and Georgia State University is making a significant impact right here in our city. Here joining us is Karen Kelly. She is the Director of Exhibits and Education at the Children's Museum of Atlanta. Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, man, we're excited to have you. You know, we want to start right here with these recent literacy rates. It says that 1 in 4 children in America grow up without learning how to read. What's your take on that right away?
My take on that is sad, and we should do something about it. It is a serious challenge. I know educators and schools do their hardest work, but it's been a challenging time, especially since COVID. As kids go back to school and they lost some learning time. And there's also some wonderful new research out about how to really strengthen kids' reading rates.
Is there a direct correlation to, you talked about COVID, you talked about, is like social media or maybe devices? Is there a direct correlation to that at all, or is that just something we blame it on?
There's actually some correlation to that. Some of the research shows that if kids are on devices and they're not having actual live conversations with people, it's not the same thing. You can listen to words, but really conversations and back and forth help teach kids language better. They learn context and they learn definitions of words as they're talking to an adult, and it helps make them more fluid. There's also some research that says that COVID has caused some challenges. Kids weren't in school, they weren't in early learning, so they weren't kind of getting that language enrichment before they hit elementary school.
Gotcha. So a little piece of a generation being lost due to COVID. Talk to me about this new collaboration that you have with Georgia State University.
Yes, we have this wonderful collaboration with Georgia State University after the past 3 years. We're all about play and learning. So we want the kids to have fun, engage, be self-guiding on their activities, but we also want them to learn things. So we worked with Georgia State to help us find the best mix to really help kids engage, but also learn language at the same time. So we worked in three Georgia counties, Fulton, Pulaski, and Tattnall counties. We worked with their teachers in their classrooms, all their pre-K students and all their kindergarten students. And we learned how to really work with kids and engage with language and give them time to respond. Because as they engage and they learn the words, if they're using them, they remember them even more.
Yeah. What kind of results are you seeing?
So we were very excited about the results of the study that we did with Georgia State, and Georgia State has been amazing. They have a whole department devoted to this and devoted to also working with low-income students and how we can help them succeed. Their advice and counsel was key, and they watched our programs. They guided us. It was a really terrific thing. But the kids also had fun. Absolutely.
Are the results that you're seeing worth the program now expanding? Is that what you have for the future?
Yes, that's what we're hoping for the future. We are working to keep our virtual programming going because a lot of rural counties have a hard time taking field trips. So we're working to keep that piece going, but we're also working on our in-person programs. So we're really trying to work and engage with kids. We ongoingly assess the impact through information from the teachers, and that really helps us keep on track. We found that during the study that kids remembered 75% of the words they taught in a 40-minute segment. That's huge.
Yes.
We weren't there. We had maybe 45 minutes with the kids and they remembered 75% of the words, and they were long words. We had pre-K kids knowing what precipitation meant.
Wow.
Or evaporation. That's huge.
That's very huge. It sounds like you're talking weather, so I want to be invited in to help out with this program.
Exactly.
I see where you're going there, Karen. I see where you're going. We'd love to help you out anytime, of course, and love to see you guys collaborating to help literacy rates in our area. Really appreciate what you're doing, Karen. Appreciate that.
Yes. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.
All right. Plenty more stories ahead, folks. This is The Take on 11Alive Plus. We're back right after this. All right, welcome back to the show. Finding a safe long-term investment can seem tough in this economy, but one avenue which remains popular is real estate. You know it. New figures from Bankrate shows 24% of Americans pick real estate as their top long-term investment. Just ahead and leading the list is the stock market. 21% turn to cash investments like savings and CDs. With that much interest in real estate, what's better for you? Folks looking for a new home in Atlanta, living inside the perimeter, ITP, or outside the perimeter, OTP. Join us now to break down all this real estate interests is Jennifer Houston, an associate broker with HomeSmart. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, good to see you. Let's start off with these numbers. 24% of Americans seeing real estate as their go-to long-term investment. Give us your take on that.
Listen, home ownership is the way to go, and especially in this market today with the equity, the amount of equity that people have in their homes. And so where can you go and invest in a home and turn around and have a return on your investment 6 figures? Many of my sellers who have purchased from me in the past over 20 years ago, they're sitting on 6 figures. So the return on the investment is huge.
Wow, that big, huh?
Yeah.
So how does that work real quickly? Do you go ahead and invest in a home? Do you have to stay in it for a certain time? Do you have to remodel? What do you have to do?
You definitely have to put some money into it. If you want top dollars, you definitely have to invest into it and keep it up. You know, it's not a guarantee that you're going to get 6 figures, but depending upon where you invest and where you purchase, that's where your return is going to be greater. So inside the perimeter, outside the perimeter, there's some great opportunities out there for return on your investments, but you definitely have to, some places you have to sit on it, some you can literally flip. You know, we have investors that are flipping property as well.
You talked about location. So tell us, inside the perimeter better than outside the perimeter or vice versa?
I'm going to stay neutral. You're not going to set me up. Inside the perimeter and outside of the perimeter, just as equally as important.
I'm looking for some tips. You know?
Okay. So if you stay inside the perimeter, you know, few of the fastest growing areas like West Midtown, Old Fourth Ward, Reynoldstown and Edgewood, East Atlanta Village, and Somerville. Those are inside the perimeter. But when you're looking for outside the perimeter, you have some growing markets like Alpharetta and Milton, Woodstock, Duluth and Swanee. You got McDonough and Stockbridge, and then Dallas and Ackworth. And so when you look and compare the two, you have many, many opportunities. When you're inside the perimeter, you're going to be closer to the city, you're going to do public transportation, and if you're outside the perimeter, you're literally going to need to have a vehicle. And they're being so ahead of the game now. You even have some live, work, play areas outside of the perimeter, so you don't necessarily have to be inside the perimeter, which is awesome.
Gotcha. Now, I'm watching this, and I'm feeling your excitement. I'm excited about trying to make that money, you know. Is this something that's hard to get into?
As far as purchasing a home?
Yeah.
No, not at all. All you need is to get pre-approved with one of our preferred lenders. And it's exciting because so many people think you have to have this super credit score.
Yeah.
You really don't. If you pick a professional realtor to do a consultation with, you'll find out it's not as difficult as you think it is. The biggest thing is you have to have a professional realtor so that we can walk you through the steps, because there are several steps, but by the time you finish, you'll feel very, very accomplished when you do.
Should we be looking for more fixer-uppers or something that's already established, or can you tell me that?
Yeah, so when I work with my first-time home buyers, I always ask them, don't look at this as your forever home, because they'll always say, I'm going to stay here forever, and I'll get that call 2 years later, I'm ready to sell. So I ask them to look at something that they can have some additional income as well. You know, if they're single and they're looking at a home and they don't have a family, guess what? If you have a basement, you can literally lease that out to a family member so they can help you with your mortgage, or you can literally buy a duplex or a quad and start earning some income immediately. So it's so many first-time homebuyer programs out there where you are able to buy quads and duplex buildings and be able to have that income take care of your mortgage. So it's way better than renting.
Absolutely. I got 3 sons that's out there like that now. I'm trying to get them to invest. Jennifer Houston, so much great information. Hey, this is not your last time on the show. We're going to bring you back. And again, bring them tips now. I need the tips.
Oh, I have some tips. I have them.
We're going to go over those the next time you come, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate you being on the show. Man, good information. That was solid. All right, don't go anywhere, folks. When we come back, I'll give you my final take. All right, before we go, folks, we want to take a look at my final take. All right, let's talk about sports. Arguably one of the most unstoppable plays in football, at least for the past 2 years, and nearly perfected by the Philadelphia Football Eagles. They call it the brotherly shove. Others refer to it as the tush push or the quarterback sneak. Now, the Green Bay Packers have decided we want to ban this. The Eagles beat them twice this past season. They want to ban this play from the game. Come on, people. If you can't stop a play that is legally to use in a game, then you need to get off the field. That's it. It's up to the coach, or in this case, defensive players, to stop that play. I'm sorry. That's why we play sports. We want to see people dominate. And the Eagles dominated. Falcons fan just ran in here, gave me the thumbs down. See, people that can't stop it, they want to ban it. Nope. You're going to have to figure out a way to get around it. That's the game, folks. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to leave you, especially those of you who hate on my Philadelphia Eagles, a moment of zen.